The stars shimmered in the dark, vast expanse of space, swirling in cosmic dances as Lyra navigated her small, gleaming spacecraft through the galaxy. A mesmerizing alien from the planet Luminara, Lyra's skin glowed with a radiant blue hue, and her silver hair flowed like liquid starlight. Her insatiable curiosity about the universe reflected in her sharp violet eyes, which sparkled with excitement as she flew through a nebula, a region where the fabric of space felt thin, and she could almost sense the pulse of cosmic energy around her. Faster, faster, she urged, her voice laced with thrill. Her ship, the Astralis, was built for exploration, but this journey led her deep into the unknown. As she steered past a glowing asteroid, she was utterly captivated by the sights and sounds that streaked by. But as she neared a swirling vortex of energy, Lyra felt an unexpected tremor in the ship. The controls flickered uncertainly, throwing her off balance. Panic surged through her. "Astralis, not now," she shouted. The luminous energy of the vortex began pulling her vessel in with immense force. In an instant, there was a blinding flash of light, and Lyra felt herself hurtling through a tunnel of iridescent colors. She shut her eyes tightly, her heart racing faster than her ship as she braced for impact. With a bone-jarring crash, the Astralis broke through the atmosphere and crashed into a quiet classroom just as the bell rang, signaling the end of a lesson. Students jumped to their feet, shrieking in surprise as Lyra tumbled out amidst the debris, her radiant form starkly contrasting with the dull room. "What in the galaxy?" a startled teacher exclaimed, clutching a stack of books to his chest. Lyra looked around wide-eyed, taking in her surroundings: desks, chairs, and blackboards covered in strange writing. The humans were unlike any being she had ever encountered. A mix of cautious curiosity and amusement washed over her. "Greetings, I am Lyra from Luminara." "Where am I?" she asked, her voice full of curiosity. The silence in the room was palpable as the students gawked, their mouths agape. The teacher stammered, Earth. You've landed in geography class." Intrigued by the oddity of the beings around her, Lyra smirked. "Interesting, such a simple structure for living," she remarked, adjusting her shimmering attire. A brave student raised his hand. "Are you an alien?" "Yes," Lyra replied with enthusiasm. "What do you do here to reproduce?" Stunned silence filled the room, broken only by muffled snickers and wide-eyed disbelief. In that moment, Lyra became the center of attention, a dazzling enigma. Little did she know, this was just the start of her adventure on Earth. The classroom buzzed with whispers, the students exchanging incredulous glances and suppressed laughter. "Reproduce," the teacher repeated slowly, his brain struggling to process the alien's arrival and her choice of topic. "Well, that's quite a personal question. Don't you think?" Unfazed by the embarrassment she had stirred, Lyra beamed with interest. "I am here to learn. You humans have such fascinating rituals." As the students' initial shock began to fade, it was replaced by curiosity. They crowded closer, eager to hear more from this alien being with glowing skin and undeniable charm. Ethan, a young biology teacher in his late 20s, stood frozen at the front of the room, equally fascinated and apprehensive. He finally stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Lyra, maybe we should discuss this in a more private setting." "Fantastic," Lyra exclaimed, her voice bright as she gestured for everyone to join. Where do we go? Instead of guiding her to his office, Ethan found himself at a local coffee shop, surrounded by the rich aroma of roasted beans and the quiet chatter of patrons. The bewildered students trailed along, their smartphones out, documenting the event for social media. "So, Earthlings," Lyra began with eager excitement, "how do you reproduce?" The barista nearly dropped a latte upon hearing the question, while Ethan's face flushed with embarrassment. Let's talk about something else first, shall we? Like, what do you like about Earth?" Lyra tilted her head, her silver hair glinting in the cafe lights. "I find everything intriguing. The air is thick with emotion. I've never sensed so many feelings before." Ethan exchanged glances with his students, unsure whether to laugh or sympathize. "Maybe we could talk about human culture? Music, art, things like that?" Lyra puffed her cheeks in frustration. "Why do you avoid the topic? Is it a secret family ritual?" "Not exactly," Ethan stammered, scratching the back of his neck. It's just a bit complicated. Lyra's eyes narrowed with playful determination. I want to understand humans, their pleasures and pains. Show me. A flurry of conversations erupted around them, each person curious about what would happen next. Lyra's enthusiasm was infectious, and despite his nerves, Ethan found himself intrigued by her genuine eagerness to learn. That's it. We could try role-playing to figure it out, Lyra suggested excitedly. Role-playing? I don't think that's how you learn about reproduction, Ethan said with a nervous laugh. Why not? Lyra countered, mischief sparkling in her violet eyes. Wouldn't it be fun? Caught off guard by her approach, Ethan hesitated. Well, how about we start with dating? That's part of the process, right? Yes, Lyra exclaimed, her excitement palpable. Let's simulate it. What do I wear? What do I say? I don't think you need to, Ethan began, then sighed. Okay, let's plan out a scenario. He pulled out a notepad and began scribbling ideas, his mind racing. We could try a restaurant date, get to know each other, maybe talk about interests, Ethan suggested. Lyra nodded, her expression serious yet invested. And then do we kiss? Isn't that part of the ritual? Ethan spluttered, nearly spilling his coffee. Only if it feels right, I guess. Right, Lyra exclaimed. We will create a connection. After a lot of planning and enthusiastic role-playing, they found themselves seated across from each other. Lyra dressed in a subtly alluring outfit she had picked up from a local thrift store. The cafe was filled with laughter and music as they began their first date. Tell me about yourself, Ethan, Lyra said, her voice melodic and full of curiosity. Well, I teach biology, he stammered, trying to keep it light. It's mostly about the science of life and organisms. I've always loved nature and exploring how things work. I want to learn about Earth's reproductive systems, she emphasized, leaning in, her violet eyes locking onto his. How do your kind connect? Ethan could barely speak, transfixed by her presence. Well, people go on dates to get to know each other, and sometimes they pursue intimacy if they want to. Intimacy, Lyra repeated, jotting down notes fervently. Is it like a deep connection? Kind of, Ethan replied, his voice gaining steadiness. It involves trust and sharing yourself with someone. What's the next step? Lyra asked, her interest undiminished. Touching, Ethan explained, it can be part of it, but only if both people consent. Lyra echoed, furrowing her brow. What does that mean? Consent is when both people agree to something, Ethan explained, his face flushing slightly. It's important to respect boundaries. Boundaries, Lyra repeated thoughtfully, scribbling another note. I'll remember that. Their conversation continued, each moment drawing them closer, as Ethan found himself opening up to her curiosity. Over time, their experiment of understanding human connection became something much deeper, a bond that neither expected. As the days passed, Lyra's fascination with Earth's customs grew, and with each new experience, their connection deepened. It was clear that their journey together had only just begun. As their unique bond grew, Lyra and Ethan found themselves exploring more of Earth's customs and quirks together. One evening, after several weeks of immersion in Earth's culture, Lyra announced with renewed energy, "We need to do something dramatically human, something that truly showcases our connection." Ethan raised an eyebrow, intrigued but apprehensive. What do you mean? Like a surprise party? Even better, Lyra grinned, her eyes twinkling with excitement. A grand, public declaration of feelings. You've mentioned grand displays of connection before. Let's create one for us. Ethan's heart raced at the thought, a mix of nervousness and excitement flooding him. What exactly do you have in mind? A performance or something? Lyra's face lit up as an idea struck. Yes, a performance. We can share our journey, our exploration of human connection with everyone. What's the next big event here? There's a festival of lights in a week, Ethan replied, feeling both anticipation and uncertainty. It's a celebration of connection and community. Perfect, Lyra clapped her hands together. We'll perform there? A mixture of dance, poetry, and storytelling. It will be beautiful. The following days were a whirlwind of preparation. Lyra's boundless enthusiasm pushed them to create an elaborate performance that reflected their shared experiences. They crafted poetic verses that recounted their adventures, blended with humorous references to their role-playing sessions. Their performance became a testament to the emotional journey they had undergone together, each day revealing new layers of understanding between them. On the day of the festival, the atmosphere was electric. Colorful lanterns floated above the streets, casting a warm glow over the crowd. Lyra's eyes gleamed as she took in the sights, her heart swelling with excitement. Ethan stood beside her backstage, nerves bubbling inside him. "Are you ready for this?" Ethan asked, his gaze shifting to the bustling crowd gathering in anticipation. "As ready as I'll ever be," Lyra replied confidently, her smile unwavering. "Let's go show the world what we've discovered." When their names were announced, they stepped onto the stage, the crowd falling silent, captivated by the sight of the glowing alien and her human companion. Ethan began by reciting a heartfelt poem he had written, weaving their journey together into verses that spoke of discovery, fear, trust, and connection. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes shining as she listened, her presence adding an ethereal energy to the performance. The audience leaned in, enraptured by the emotion in Ethan's voice. As he concluded the poem, Lyra joined him on stage, their movements synchronized as they began a rhythmic dance. Their bodies flowed in perfect harmony, a blend of human and alien, symbolizing the beauty of connection across two worlds. As they danced, the crowd watched in awe. The lights flickered like stars around them, and when they reached the finale, a dramatic, intricate pose, the audience erupted into applause. Cheers and whistles filled the air, the energy palpable. Lyra turned to Ethan, her eyes glistening with joy. "Do you feel it? How each being here connects?" "I do," Ethan replied, his excitement mirroring hers. "This is part of our bond." After the performance, the crowd swarmed them, eager to celebrate the unique display they had witnessed. Ethan felt a surge of warmth as he realized just how impactful their connection had been, not only for them but for everyone present. Their performance had become a symbol of cross-cultural understanding, a bridge between two vastly different worlds. Lyra's heart soared as she embraced the applause and the admiration from the audience. Turning to Ethan, she said, "I'm so grateful for this, for our connection. It's something beyond what I could have imagined." Without hesitation, she leaned in closer, her sparkling eyes reflecting her sincerity. "May I?" she asked softly. "If the connection feels right," urged by the deep bond they had formed. Ethan nodded, giving her consent. Gently, Lyra closed the gap between them, their lips meeting in a tender, electric kiss. The crowd erupted once more into applause, but in that moment, all Ethan could focus on was the energy pulsing between them, the undeniable connection they had forged. As they pulled away, laughter and cheers swirled around them, but time seemed to stand still for the two. The kiss had ignited something deeper, a powerful acknowledgement of the bond that had grown between them. Lyra beamed, her face radiating joy. "So this is what you mean by intimacy?" Lyra asked, her voice filled with wonder. "Sharing emotions that transcend the physical." "Exactly," Ethan replied, still catching his breath. The magic of the moment lingered, and he felt a deeper connection to Lyra than ever before. "Your human customs are remarkable," Lyra mused, her eyes gleaming, "but they also carry great weight." In the quiet aftermath of their kiss, Ethan realized how much Lyra had taught him, not just about connection, but about opening up and embracing vulnerability. "I think I've been afraid of vulnerability for a long time, but you've shown me the beauty in being open," Ethan admitted, his voice soft but full of emotion. Lyra nodded, her gaze tender. "On Luminara, we express emotions differently, but here I've uncovered a spectrum of feelings I never knew existed." As they stepped off the stage, their hands entwined, they were met with warmth and admiration from the crowd. Friends rallied around them, showering them with praise. Ethan's earlier apprehension faded away, replaced by a sense of joy and belonging. Lyra, ever inquisitive, engaged the crowd with thought-provoking questions about their own experiences. "Tell me, humans," Lyra prompted with genuine curiosity, "how do you express love?" The responses poured forth, with stories of affection, laughter, and storytelling mingling with the festival's colorful atmosphere. Ethan stood back for a moment, observing Lyra as she effortlessly encouraged others to share their emotions. Her journey had blossomed into a celebration of openness, a quest that had begun with a question about reproduction but had transformed into an exploration of the heart. "I never thought we'd come this far," Ethan murmured, a smile playing on his lips. "Me neither," Lyra replied earnestly. "You humans have a remarkable ability to connect." "I wish to explore this depth with you further." In that moment, Ethan realized they had achieved something extraordinary, not just an exchange of knowledge, but a bond that spanned worlds. As the festival wound down and the lanterns flickered in the night sky, Lyra turned to him, her presence radiant. "So, what comes next, dear human?" she asked with a playful grin. Ethan leaned in, resting his forehead gently against hers, a promise echoing between them. "I guess we'll keep learning together. After all, each day brings something new." "Yes," Lyra declared with joy. "An eternal adventure of connection, one in which I shall continue to understand humanity hand in hand." They walked into the night, ready to explore whatever awaited them. Two beings from vastly different worlds, embarking on a shared journey of love, understanding, and connection, with every step drawing them closer together. As days turned into weeks, Lyra and Ethan's connection deepened, each new experience adding layers to their understanding of one another. The festival performance had been a pivotal moment, but their journey was far from over. Lyra's curiosity about human behavior only grew, and her desire to experience more aspects of human life led them into a series of adventures across the city. One afternoon, as they strolled through a lively street market, Lyra's eyes darted from stall to stall, absorbing every detail. The scent of freshly baked bread mixed with the aroma of spices, while colorful fabrics fluttered in the breeze. Street performers played cheerful tunes, and the energy of the crowd was palpable. Lyra turned to Ethan, her violet eyes wide with excitement. "Ethan, humans seem to connect so easily in places like this. Is this where bonds are often formed?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. Ethan smiled, watching her as she marveled at the vibrant scene. "It's one of the places, yes. Markets, festivals, gatherings, anywhere people come together. It's not just about what's being sold, it's about the shared experience." Lyra nodded thoughtfully, her attention caught by a group of friends laughing as they shared food from a nearby vendor. "I see. It's about more than just material things. It's the emotions, the togetherness." As they continued walking, they stopped at a booth selling handmade jewelry. Lyra's gaze was drawn to a delicate necklace, a simple silver chain with a star-shaped pendant that reminded her of the starlight back home. "This is beautiful," she murmured, picking it up gently. Ethan noticed the wistfulness in her voice. "It reminds you of Luminara, doesn't it?" Lyra nodded, holding the pendant close. "Yes, the stars, they feel like a part of me. But here, I'm beginning to feel something new, a connection to this world, to you." Ethan's heart swelled at her words. "I think we're both learning more about ourselves through this. Our bond, it's different from anything I've ever experienced." Lyra smiled softly, her eyes reflecting both her alien curiosity and the growing warmth of her human connection. "It is different, but in the best way." Just then, a street performer's voice boomed over the crowd, inviting people to join a spontaneous dance in the center of the square. The music shifted to an upbeat tune, and people around them began clapping along to the rhythm. Lyra's eyes lit up with excitement as she grabbed Ethan's hand. "Let's join them," she exclaimed, pulling him toward the crowd. "Lyra, I'm not much of a dancer," Ethan protested with a laugh, but he followed her lead anyway, caught up in her enthusiasm. As they moved into the circle of dancers, Lyra's graceful, otherworldly movements blended with the human rhythm of the dance. The two of them swayed and twirled, their laughter echoing through the square. The crowd cheered them on, captivated by the sight of the glowing alien and her human companion, dancing with pure joy. Ethan found himself completely immersed in the moment. Despite his initial hesitation, being with Lyra made everything feel effortless, as if they were perfectly in sync. As the music swelled, their movements became more fluid, their connection palpable not only to them but to everyone watching. When the dance finally ended, breathless and laughing, they were met with applause from the crowd. Lyra beamed, her face glowing with exhilaration. "That was incredible. I could feel the energy between everyone. The connection was so strong." Ethan nodded, still catching his breath. "Yeah, it was something special." "It's amazing how dancing can bring people together like that." Lyra's gaze softened as she looked at him. "I'm learning more every day, Ethan. About humans, about emotions, about myself. and I realize that the connection we share, it's not just about learning anymore. It's becoming something deeper. Ethan felt a warmth spreading through him at her words. I feel the same way, Lyra. We're not just exploring human connection, you're becoming a part of my world, and I'm becoming a part of yours. Their eyes met, and in that moment, both understood the depth of the bond they had forged. It was no longer just an experiment or a cultural exchange. It was love and emotion that transcended worlds. As the sun began to set over the bustling market, casting a golden glow over the city, Ethan and Lyra walked hand in hand, content in the knowledge that their journey together was only just beginning. That evening, they returned to Ethan's apartment, where Lyra's fascination with Earth's natural world continued to captivate her. She often found herself flipping through the books on his shelves, particularly drawn to those about human biology, nature, and the animal kingdom. As they settled on the couch, a nature documentary played quietly in the background, the soft hum of the narrator's voice filling the room. Lyra, her curiosity still brimming, turned to Ethan. Do humans often learn about themselves by observing nature? Is that why you teach biology? Ethan smiled, nodding. In a way, yes. Nature teaches a lot about life, about connection, survival, even love. Animals have their own ways of bonding, of showing care for one another. It's not so different from humans. Lyra considered this, her gaze drifting to the screen where images of animals in the wild flashed by. I see. So even in nature, there is a desire for connection. Exactly, Ethan replied, his voice soft. Humans, like animals, seek companionship, trust, and love. It's what keeps us connected to one another. Lyra leaned back, her eyes thoughtful. I'm beginning to understand. It's not just about reproduction or survival, it's about something more. It's about sharing your life with someone. Ethan turned to her, his gaze full of warmth. Yes, it's about building a bond that goes beyond the physical. It's about trust, emotion, and vulnerability. Lyra's violet eyes softened as she absorbed his words. And that's what we're doing, isn't it? Building something more than just an understanding of each other's worlds. Ethan nodded, his heart full. Yes, Lyra, that's exactly what we're doing. As they sat together in the quiet of his apartment, the bond between them grew even stronger, not just as an alien and a human, but as two souls learning the beauty of connection, love, and trust across worlds, across boundaries, and into the depths of their shared journey. The days that followed were filled with more discoveries, each one drawing them closer. From quiet moments spent stargazing on the roof of Ethan's apartment to playful exchanges over coffee in the bustling streets, every experience deepened their understanding of each other. Lyra's journey of learning had become something much more profound, a journey of love. And as they stood hand in hand, gazing up at the stars that had once separated them, they knew that their adventure together had only just begun. Two beings from different worlds, bound by a connection that transcended the stars themselves. As the night stretched on, Lyra and Ethan found themselves more in tune with each other than ever. Their lives, once vastly different, had begun to intertwine in ways neither of them had anticipated. Every shared experience, from quiet conversations about the stars to spontaneous adventures in the city, brought them closer to understanding not just each other, but themselves. One evening, as they walked through the park beneath a sky glittering with stars, Lyra paused and looked up, her silver hair shimmering under the moonlight. Ethan, I've been thinking, she began softly. Humans have so many ways of expressing love, connection, and affection, but I'm realizing it's not always easy for them. Why is that? Ethan glanced at her, then up at the sky, reflecting on her question. It's complicated, he admitted. Humans, well, we carry a lot of emotions. Fear, vulnerability, past experiences. Sometimes those things make it hard to connect, even when we want to. Lyra tilted her head, her violet eyes thoughtful. Fear? I've seen that in humans, but I still don't fully understand it. What are they afraid of? Ethan took a deep breath, thinking carefully. I guess for a lot of people, it's the fear of getting hurt. When you open yourself up to someone, when you share your emotions, it can make you vulnerable. And sometimes that vulnerability leads to pain. People get hurt, they lose trust, and then they hesitate to open up again. Lyra's gaze softened as she absorbed his words. And you? Is that why you hesitated when we first met? Ethan smiled, his expression tinged with a hint of sadness. Yeah, I suppose it is. I've been hurt before. It's hard to fully trust again after that, even when you meet someone as incredible as you." Lyra placed her hand gently on his arm, her touch warm and comforting. "But you trust me now, don't you?" He nodded, looking into her eyes. "I do. You've shown me that opening up doesn't always have to lead to pain. Sometimes it leads to something beautiful." Lyra smiled, her face lighting up. "I'm glad. I've learned so much from you, Ethan, not just about humans, but about connection. I've realized that vulnerability isn't something to be feared, it's something that can deepen the bond between two people." Ethan felt a rush of warmth at her words. "You've taught me a lot too, Lyra. About being brave enough to let someone in, even when it's scary. About taking chances." For a moment, they stood in comfortable silence, the stars twinkling above them like a cosmic tapestry. Lyra gazed up, her thoughts drifting to the distant constellations. Back on Luminara. She began quietly, "We connect in different ways. It's less emotional, more logical. We share knowledge, experiences, but it's not the same as what I've found here on Earth. There's something so powerful about the way humans connect, even when it's messy or painful." Ethan chuckled softly. "Yeah, it's messy, all right. But that's part of the beauty, isn't it? It's real." Lyra's eyes shone with understanding. "Yes, it is. And I want to keep exploring it. I want to understand every part of what it means to be human." They continued walking, the quiet hum of the city fading as they wandered deeper into the park. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the soft glow of the moon illuminated the path ahead. Lyra felt a sense of peace wash over her, a feeling that had become more familiar with each passing day spent on Earth. Eventually, they found a secluded bench beneath a large oak tree and sat down. Lyra rested her head on Ethan's shoulder, her heart calm and steady. "You know," she murmured, "when I first came here, I thought my mission was just to observe, to learn about humans from a distance. But now, it's so much more than that." Ethan placed his hand over hers, their fingers intertwining. "I'm glad it turned into something more. I don't think I'd be the same without you." Lyra closed her eyes, a soft smile on her lips. "Neither would I." The stillness of the night wrapped around them, and for a moment it felt as though the entire universe had quieted, allowing them this perfect, peaceful silence. Their bond, once a curious experiment, had evolved into something far more profound, a love that transcended the limits of their worlds. The next few weeks were filled with more shared experiences, each one deepening their connection. Lyra's curiosity continued to drive them to explore every corner of human life, from the mundane to the extraordinary. Whether it was a quiet evening spent watching old movies or a spontaneous trip to the mountains, every moment with Ethan felt like a new discovery. One evening, they decided to visit a local art gallery that had become the center of a new cultural movement in the city. The gallery was hosting an exhibition on human emotion, showcasing paintings, sculptures, and digital art that expressed the complexities of love, fear, joy, and sorrow. As they walked through the gallery, Lyra was mesmerized by the range of emotions captured in the art. She stopped in front of a painting that depicted two figures, one reaching out to the other, their hands just inches apart, but never touching. The colors were vibrant, yet there was a sense of sadness that hung over the scene. "What does this mean?" Lyra asked, her voice soft as she studied the painting. Ethan stood beside her, contemplating the image. "I think it's about distance," he explained, "about wanting to connect with someone, but not being able to. It's a feeling a lot of people experience when you want to reach out, but something holds you back." Lyra's expression grew thoughtful. "I see. It's about longing for a connection that feels just out of reach." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. Human emotions can be complicated, especially when it comes to relationships. Sometimes, even when we want to connect, fear or doubt gets in the way." Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with empathy. "But we're not letting that happen, are we? We've learned how to push past those barriers." Ethan smiled, touched by her words. "Yeah, we have. And that's what makes this so special." They continued through the gallery, stopping in front of sculptures that depicted various stages of love, from the initial spark of attraction to the deep, unwavering bond that grows over time. Each piece resonated with Lyra in a different way, expanding her understanding of human emotions. By the time they left the gallery, the night had settled in, and the city streets were lit by the soft glow of streetlights. Lyra felt a sense of wonder as they walked hand in hand, reflecting on everything she had learned. "Ethan," she said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I think I'm starting to understand what love truly means. It's more than just an emotion, it's an experience. A journey." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "It is. And it's a journey I'm glad we're on together." As they walked beneath the stars once more, Lyra knew that her time on Earth had transformed her in ways she hadn't expected. She had come to study humans, to learn their ways, but along the way she had found something far greater: love, connection, and the beauty of vulnerability. And as they continued their journey together, Lyra and Ethan knew that, no matter where the future took them, they would face it hand in hand, ready for whatever adventures awaited. As the weeks passed, Lyra and Ethan's lives became more intertwined, their shared moments growing richer with each new discovery. Every experience brought Lyra deeper into understanding the human condition, and Ethan found himself more captivated by her unique perspective on life, love, and everything in between. One night, as they sat on the rooftop of Ethan's apartment, gazing up at the stars that had once felt so distant to Lyra, she found herself thinking aloud. "Ethan, there's something I still don't fully understand. Humans seem to thrive on connection, but many of them still remain distant. Why do they hide from each other?" Ethan turned to her, the cool night breeze ruffling his hair. "You're right, a lot of people do hold back. It's because they're afraid of being hurt. The more you open up, the more vulnerable you are. And sometimes, that fear keeps people from really connecting with others." Lyra tilted her head, her violet eyes reflecting the distant stars. "I've seen this. Humans so full of emotion, yet they often struggle to share it. On Luminara, we value knowledge and logical exchange, but here, there's something more fragile about the way humans interact. It's beautiful, but it's also complicated." Ethan nodded, his eyes scanning the sky as he searched for the right words. "It is complicated. Human relationships are filled with contradictions. People want connection, but they're scared of it at the same time. We crave intimacy, but we also push it away when we feel too exposed." Lyra's gaze softened. "I think I've come to understand that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. It's what allows humans to experience love so deeply. Without it, there's no real connection." Ethan smiled, touched by how far Lyra had come in her understanding of human emotion. "You're right. Vulnerability is the heart of it all. It's scary, but it's what makes everything else worth it." For a moment, they sat in silence, the vastness of the sky stretching out above them, a reminder of the distance Lyra had traveled from the farthest reaches of space to this very rooftop on Earth. She had learned so much, not just about humans, but about herself. Lyra leaned into Ethan's side, her voice barely above a whisper. "Back home, I never imagined I'd find something like this. A connection so deep, so different from what I knew. I thought I was just coming to observe, to learn about your world. But now I see that I was meant to be part of it." Ethan's heart swelled at her words, and he gently wrapped his arm around her. "I feel the same way, Lyra. You've changed my life in ways I never expected. I've learned so much from you, and not just about the universe or other worlds. You've taught me about myself, about what it means to truly open up." Lyra smiled softly, the warmth of his presence comforting. "I've learned, too, more than I ever thought possible. But now I want to go deeper. I want to understand not just the connections humans make, but the ones that endure." Ethan's brow furrowed slightly, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Lyra looked up at him, her expression serious yet hopeful. "Humans often talk about love as something that lasts, something that binds people together for a lifetime, or even beyond that. I want to know if what we have is like that. Is our connection one that will endure? Can it truly bridge the gap between our worlds?" Ethan's heart skipped a beat at her question. He had thought about this too, but hearing Lyra's voice, it made the reality of their situation all the more tangible. He took a deep breath, his voice steady but full of emotion. "I believe it can. I don't know what the future holds for us, Lyra, but I do know that what we have isn't just about the here and now. It's something deeper, something that can grow and last, no matter where we are. Lyra's violet eyes sparkled with the faintest hint of tears, a human response she had begun to understand. I feel the same way. I want to explore this connection further, Ethan. I want to see how far we can take it. Ethan nodded, his heart full. We'll figure it out together. One step at a time. In the following days, their conversations grew more personal, more intimate. They shared stories of their pasts, their fears, and their hopes for the future. Lyra spoke of Luminara, of the logical society she had left behind, and how her time on Earth had opened her up to a new way of thinking. Ethan, in turn, shared his own vulnerabilities, his struggles with trust, and his fears of losing the connection they had built. One evening, as they sat in Ethan's living room, surrounded by the glow of soft candlelight, Lyra asked a question that had been on her mind for days. Ethan, what does love look like to you? I've seen humans express it in many ways, but I want to know what it means to you personally. Ethan thought for a moment, his gaze fixed on the flickering flame of a nearby candle. Love, to me, is trust. It's being able to be yourself with someone, knowing they'll accept you no matter what. It's about being there for each other, even when things get tough. And it's about growing together, building something that lasts. Lyra nodded slowly, taking in his words. I think I'm starting to understand. Love isn't just an emotion, it's an action. It's something you choose to do every day. Ethan smiled, his heart warmed by her insight. Exactly. It's a commitment, in a way. Not just to the person you love, but to the connection you share. Lyra leaned in closer, her eyes searching his. Then I choose that. I choose this connection, Ethan. I want to build something that lasts with you. Ethan's heart raced at her words, and he reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. I want that too, Lyra, more than anything. In that moment, the air between them felt charged with possibility. Their bond had grown from curiosity into something far more profound, something that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. And as they sat together, wrapped in the quiet intimacy of the evening, they both knew that their journey was only just beginning. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. For every comment that says, we will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.